This episode of The Apartment Guys is being brought to you by Greenlight Equity Group. Greenlight Equity Group acquires and operates cash-flowing multifamily assets in progressive metropolitan markets such as Salt Lake City, Idaho, San Antonio, Oklahoma City, and Columbus, Ohio. Greenlight targets consistent, solid returns for its investors and a healthy environment for residents by operating high-quality, safe, clean, affordable apartment communities. To learn more about Greenlight and to sign up for the investor list, go to www.glequitygroup.com.
Welcome to The Apartment Guys, where we dive deep into all things multifamily investing. Our mission is to educate, inspire, and empower real estate investors to reach their highest potential. Each week, host Tate interviews high-level guests from all over the industry who are sure to bring valuable, actionable ideas that will propel your career to the next level. Whether you're just starting out or a seasoned investor, you are in the right place. And now your host, the apartment guy, Tate Seymour.
And we're back with another episode of the Apartment Guys podcast. Guys, I have a very special announcement to make today. In a week or so, I'm going to be launching the free download of my new ebook called FIRE, which stands for Financial Independence, Retire Early Through Apartment Investing. And it's really exciting to think about becoming financially independent, isn't it? Get maybe $20,000 a month coming in, something like that, $10,000 to $30,000, $40,000 a month, whatever amount is going to make your life amazing. That can happen through apartment investing, and it can happen faster than you think. Retire early is the RE in FIRE. So I'm really excited about it and can't wait for you guys to get your hands on it. It's not going to be free forever. Really looking forward to having you check it out. And we have Julie Holly on the show today. She's amazing. I think you'll love her bubbly personality and her perspective on investing in apartments. She moved from busy, crowded Southern California to northern rural Idaho, in the middle of nowhere, essentially. But it's a mecca for mountain biking, and Julie is a mountain bike enthusiast, as am I. So we talk about that a little bit and get into some really great stuff. Hope you like it, guys. If you do, leave a rating and review at the end of the episode on your platform that you're listening to this on. It means a lot. And without further ado, let's just jump right into it with Julie Holly. Welcome, everybody, back to another episode of the Apartment Guys podcast. And once again, we get to be the Apartment Guy and Apartment Gal podcast today. I get to hang out with Julie Holly today, and she's the special guest on the podcast today and is the founder of Three Keys Investments. And she helps people like you find their freedom through multifamily real estate investing, so that they can live the life of their dreams. She's invested in single-family houses, and she's house-hacked before it even had a name. She's managed properties from 1,000 miles away and passively invested in multifamily assets. Currently, Julie is a passive investor in nearly 300 doors. Her podcast is awesome. It's called Ask Me How I Know, Multifamily Stories of Struggles to Success. And it's designed to fuel the mind and soul through weekly interviews with industry leaders as well as mindset episodes. Julie's experience as a public school teacher and her ability to relate with people and genuine care for their financial well-being allow her to raise capital for her team's offerings. So, Julie, thank you so much for being with me and hanging out today. Welcome.
Hey, it's so much fun. And oh my gosh, every time you hear somebody read your bio, don't you just kind of go like, wow, who's that person? I want to meet that person.
sounds really like an interesting person. Yeah.
Wow, it sounds like they've accomplished a lot. No kidding.
Well, and you 300 doors is awesome. And your single families and house hack and the things that you've been able to accomplish as a businesswoman, and I'd love to talk to you a little bit about what, kind of the woman behind the myth and the bio. Like what is it that has made Julie Holly who she is, and what is it that kind of makes her tick? What's important to you?
Well, what's important to me is do what's right. No, I'm kidding. I feel like
No,
everybody needs to hear that message
let's do
right
it.
now in the
Yeah,
world. Just do
right.
what's right. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
Aside from that, a whole lot of personal development. Like, you see somebody, you hear a bio, and sometimes I think that almost like we need to write our own eulogies and like kind of hear what we expect at the end of life. When we're gone, we
Mm.
need to really like read our own bios or have somebody read them, like you just did, because it really gives you an outside perspective of yourself. Because when you're in the trenches, like you're saying, like who's the woman, who's behind Julie Holly, like who's inside of there. It's like I hear that and I'm thinking, wow, I've actually accomplished a lot, but inside I'm more like this like hardworking, fine-tuned machine that's just grinding away, and you forget those accomplishments on the way. Like,
Mm-hmm.
oh yeah, I'm so busy going to the next thing and pushing on to with the vision that I have, that it's like, oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So when I think about who I am, Tate, I just think about the journey that I've had in life. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
such a personal development junkie. I've only just realized this. I mean, I knew it, but I'm actually owning it. I might start like like a self-help group, like, hi, I'm Julie Holly, I'm a personal development junkie. But through that personal development over the last few years, I have actually taken all of my dreams and visions and am breathing life into it for the first time ever. The first time ever, Tate. That's horrible. I'm a middle-aged woman. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and so I think about everything that I learned along the way, because every single experience that we have is something that can serve us really well. And I had a lot of experience in real estate, and I also have this background as a education teacher, public
Mm-hmm.
school teacher for these young little ones. I've no longer do that, but all of those experiences shape you into who you are. But here's the thing: I didn't know who I was. I knew what I wanted. I knew these goals that I wanted at some point in my life, but I didn't chase after them. They were not clear enough for me. I didn't have my goals set the right way. I knew I wanted passive income, all of these hurdles. And finally, I just hit this point where it's like, and that's the beauty of middle age. Can we just get an aim? I like, seriously, give me an amen on that one. Like, well, I
Oh
don't
yeah,
know. I don't know
absolutely.
where you're at on
Oh,
that, but
you got the gray. The gray hairs right here for the
okay.
YouTube viewers. Like, I'm right there with you, Julie. Yeah.
Yeah. And something really powerful happens when you realize, wait a second, I have everything that it takes, and I don't need to doubt myself anymore.
Yeah.
Like, what would my 50, 60, 70-year-old self say back to me? And I've been using that a lot. What's future Julie say? And that gives me that courage to just really push hard into my dreams, so that when I'm 60, 70, 80, I'm looking back and I've got the passive income. I've developed it because I had the hustle and the determination to push on
Mm-hmm.
now in these years.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So take us back to before you said you were properly setting goals, and before you felt like you really knew yourself, and you knew your goals to a certain degree, but you didn't really know yourself. How long ago was that, Julie?
I would say, let's see. I mean, I've always been aware
Uh-huh.
of what I wanted to do, and I felt like I had something inside of me. It's
Yeah.
something that I could do to serve the world really well. But it took me, I'm going to be 44 in March. So it's taken me, 42 years to figure that out. Like, that's just the God honest truth. But,
There's something about. Sorry to interrupt you. There's something about that age. So I'm 47, and right around 42 was when some really profound shifts happened inside of me, and I took on a much higher level of self knowledge and awareness, and kind of, in a lot of ways, like the emotional IQ concept. Like I feel like I really adapted a lot of chops around emotional health and management, and so it doesn't surprise me. It sounds like, as a personal development junkie myself, it doesn't surprise me that the age was and is like key in your life right now.
Yeah, it's a really interesting time, and so by pursuing that, you're able to look back, and or for me, I was able to look back and see, wow, I've always been an overachiever. I graduated 5 years of college in 4 years. I did everything a little bit different my entire life, but there was always that pushback. And I'm a people person, so I just always wanted to fit in, and I was so busy trying to fit in the mold. And at some point, you realize, why am I wasting my energy on this? This isn't even
Mhm.
really what I want to be doing. Or
Mhm.
I love kids and I love teaching, and that is a very worthwhile profession to be in. However, asterisk, asterisk, comma is like, this isn't where I'm supposed to be. And
Mhm.
so if you're not supposed to be somewhere, or you love where you are, but you have a bigger vision and you're not pursuing it, you will always have a disconnect. And
Mhm.
that disconnect is a rub, and that rub becomes like an Indian burn, like you remember this,
Yeah.
probably, oh, that's probably politically incorrect now, but like those little things that, we'll do carpet, when you're on the
Carpet
carpet and
burn.
you
Yeah. Yeah.
wrestling and everything like that, it's
Yeah.
like, you at some point you have to address it, or you're going to
Yeah.
end up in those later years feeling really miserable, full of regret. And at some point I decided, forget this, I don't want to live with regret.
Hmm. Yeah, and that's such a key moment. You talk about the rub of not being, I mean, in my these are my words, like not being fully aligned with your mission and with your purpose, and feeling like you're in your niche, in your zone, doing kind of what you were born to do. Like, there's no better feeling in the world than that. And it took me 42 years to 43, 44 years to get to that point where, yeah, I feel like there's not an ounce of hesitation in me at all anymore about anything that I am doing with my life, and particularly with business. It's game on right now. And it's all cylinders firing. And I love the concept of intentional congruency. I forget what book that
Mm.
came out of, but I think it was like The One Thing by Gary Keller. But he talks about how all parts of your life can serve all parts of your life through this idea of intentional congruency in your life. And I can tell that you're a lot like me, where this isn't a clock in and clock out sort of thing.
Right.
This is
It's a lifestyle.
yeah, yeah, it's very much a lifestyle. And there's I can see and hear in you a real love for it. And I think that's uh, gonna be, it is a huge part and reason for your success, and gonna be a huge reason for your oncoming success in the future here. I think, if you're doing what you love, and doing it in a way, first of all, if you're doing what you love, you're going to do it well,
Excellent.
generally, right?
Absolutely.
And if you're doing something well, hopefully at least you love it or like it a lot. But and it's not going to feel like work, so it's going to, ideally it'll energize you and will kind of feed itself. And I think from what I can tell in this business, the highly successful folks are the ones that really love it.
You know, and Tate, I think that is how life works, but we have been conditioned to think that we simply have to go and do a job. And unfortunately, we've been conditioned to believe this concept of work, and work is, oh, I'm going to work. And I talk specifically to my own children about that. Like, they hear me use that word work, and I specifically tell them, work, it should be something that you love. Work
Mm-hmm.
can be something that you love. Like, just because I don't want the culture in general just kind of looks at work as like, oh, it's work. And work is work. Like, it's a grind sometimes, but
Mm-hmm.
that doesn't mean that it's a negative, bad thing. So
Mm-hmm.
you are absolutely right. I absolutely love what I do. And there are a lot of people out there that, like, for instance, a lot of the teachers that I used to work with, they love what they do. They love serving in that capacity. But we're talking about intentional congruency, right? Between all parts of our life. Like, okay, great. I love what I do. is my money reflecting what I also believe my mission in life is? Like, so for example, like teachers in general have these really huge hearts. And I'll speak to elementary teachers because that's all I know, right? They might change as you get up in the grades. But, they in general have these really compassionate, caring hearts that want to change in the world by empowering students one at a time, right? Is their money doing that? And so there's that congruency factor right there is I'm great. My life, my choices, where I'm putting my time, my energy, that is congruent. How about my money? So maybe I need to be investing my money in a capacity where I know it's serving a community really well. I have an opportunity right now. I have to evaluate it. You know how that goes in my own community. So I live in a town of 2,500 people. This is like super small town in far north Idaho, and an apartment complex. That means like one of two just hit the market.
Wow.
And what a great opportunity to potentially, right, rally some people in the community so that they have exactly what you're talking about, that intentional congruency in their life, right? So now they're working and their life mission in their work, and maybe they can put some money into that investment as well, and now their money is aligned also. It's powerful. And anyone in any profession can do it. So just because I love that. You have me totally sidetracked right now on this concept, because I think that's a missing link for a lot of people.
Totally. Yeah. And the whole field of apartment building investing is still one that the mainstream thinks of as inaccessible and high barrier to entry. And really, it takes somebody like you or me to help educate people about the opportunity and all the upsides, and the fact that it might be a much lower barrier to entry than you are thinking, and might be a much more attainable investment than you're thinking for yourself. So, so that's super exciting. So before I want to go on and talk about what you're doing now and how you're doing it. Before I go there, I just want to get a little more context for you. So did you grow up in small town northern Idaho?
Okay, not at all. So this is really fun. I grew up in Modesto, California. So anyone who hears this, like, that's a good pinpoint. Sometimes people like to say centrally located. So I used to rock climb all the time in Yosemite because it was my back door in a sense. And then San Francisco, drive in an hour and 20 and get great Thai food. And then I've also lived in Denver, Colorado. That's where my husband and I launched our family. So and then now we're up in rural far north Idaho. And I did not know that. I thought I've done suburbs, I've lived in the city, and now I live rural. And apparently I had a little country bumpkin inside of me that I did not know existed.
There you go. Right. It's amazing where you thrive. Sometimes you change environments and it can just light you up. That happened when I moved to Utah. So I'm probably 8 hours, 10 hours south of you, roughly.
Oh no, you're
Salt Lake City.
Let's see, yeah, SLC. That's a solid. Let's see, that's 9. That's another 4. No, you're like 16 easy hours away.
Okay.
Like I'm on the Canadian border.
Okay, all right, yeah.
So I'm going to interject. I'm going to totally jump the gun because you said I want to know what you do for fun, and we have something in common. So I'm going to throw this in there right now. The mountain bike scene up here is off the hook.
Oh, nice.
Like absolutely off the hook. I wish I could just get a whole crew of people up here and just do a, weekend retreat of investing and mountain biking.
Well, there's a big community of us, mountain bikers / investors here in Salt Lake. There's a massive mountain bike community here, but there's kind of a sub group of us that we're talking about doing a trip to Moab this spring, and so we exist. Like,
I need to be on that list because I've been told. I have 2 places. In my mind, I'm always that extra space when you're not achieving everything else.
Yes.
I don't know how I do it, but I keep telling myself like, yes, you can. It's like free time. Okay, you can think about that idea now. That getaway, that boot camp type concept.
Sure. So what? We'll just round that out. What else do you do for fun?
I do a lot of writing. and a lot of just time in the outdoors. So, and talk about congruency. So I write grants for a local nonprofit and help find funding for them for trails and trail development. So, I mean, that's a beautiful thing. We've been able to expand a trail system. Now we have an in-town trail system that, people can go to in the community. I could go on about it. So it's really neat. You have your passion, you have your skills, and when you can marry everything together, it's a real joy.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. And it just creates a joyful, powerful person in general that is going to be much more highly effective and impactful in the world, and happy.
Right.
It's coincidentally. So, all right. So talk a little bit about your company,
Sure.
Three Keys Investments. Tell us a little bit about that.
Awesome. Three Keys Investments. The whole concept behind Three Keys, which to me is even more important. I do business. I'm this weird person. And I think there are actually a lot of people, so I shouldn't say it's weird. But I think a lot of people resonate with us. We're aware of who we're doing business with. We're aware of the type of company that we're doing business with. And more often people are aware. Talk about intentionality. Does this company align with my value system and what I believe and what I want to push forth? And there's so many amazing investors out there. And you'll notice that different investors, their companies kind of have a heartbeat for something really special. It might be for veterans. It might be for homelessness. It might be for putting rec centers in communities. And so my concept, what I love about Three Keys, which this is a weird way of answering your question, I think, but I'm just going to go with it. The heartbeat of it is for people to find their freedom. I look around the world and I see a bunch of people walking around gray and unhappy because they're trapped in different ways. And oftentimes, if we can have a level of financial freedom or financial security or confidence, that allows us to address some of the other pain points in our life. And that freedom, if people can just kind of push past those barricades in their life, that freedom comes. And I think our world would be a much better world if people could do that. So I do a lot of education for people so that they can have that financial freedom. And my role within the company is primarily I raise capital. So again, going back to my background in education, let me teach you how this works. Let me show you the way and lead you down the path. I'm developing some curriculum, if you will, right? Some content. And that's that teacher side of me is people really have to, we're all no different than kindergartners or first graders learning how to read. And we just have to start high level. What is this concept? And just breaking it down into bite-sized pieces for people to be able to understand easily. It's so accessible, but we overcomplicate it. And as adults, we take for granted so often. I mean, you are so smart, Tate, you're competent, and you have a background of success behind you. And so naturally, I'm going to speak with you in that way. And I might have this super high level conversation about apartment investing, but you don't have a background in that. And, you do, but, let's say you didn't. So, just learning to speak people's languages is really important.
What level, I'm curious, what level of you were an elementary school teacher? What
Yes.
grade?
You have to guess on that one.
Oh man, fourth grade came to mind. I don't know why, but fourth.
That's a good grade. I taught first grade. I taught second grade. I taught third grade 1 year and don't teach third grade again. I love second grade.
The reason I ask is because you said you got to know how to talk to people. And I was thinking if you're skilled at talking to fourth graders or first graders or and I'll often say to an attorney or somebody that's talking to me about something that I don't understand, explain it to me like I'm a third grader here. Really, I mean, I think I'm a reasonably intelligent person and pretty quick on the uptake, but sometimes you got to have that. You got to have an expert that you trust, that you know, like, and trust to be able to walk you through how things work. And when you're talking about potentially the biggest or, one of the biggest investments in your life or in your portfolio, it's important to have somebody like Julie who knows her stuff and is obviously very well-intentioned, has a heart of gold, and wants freedom for you and for all investors. And to have that teacher mentality, that teacher background, I think would be a really nice skill in this world.
It's pretty slick. It almost goes back to that. Remember, there was a show. I don't watch TV, but I remember hearing about the show called Smarter Than a Fifth Grader. Are you smart? Right? So there is a lot of truth to that. And actually, most text outside the business world, most text is written at a fifth or sixth grade level so that it's accessible to all people. So it really makes sense that it would be wise for anyone, if you're an active investor and you're listening to this, keep that in mind as you're creating material. Know who you're trying to reach, but understand that people's bandwidth might lend themselves well to something far more simple.
Mm-hmm. So when you're talking to a newbie, a passive investor that's looking at, okay, tell me how this would work. What's it look like? Why would I do this? Why apartments? Where do you start?
Well, you have to start with what their background and what their experience is, right? Mm-hmm. So, education, in the educational community, we call that their schema, right? What do you come into the table with already? So understanding where somebody has been in their background. So have you even have you rented? Have you ever rented a place? Let's just start there. Are you still living in mom's basement? No kidding. Have you rented a place? Have you bought a home before? Have you ever had an investment property, single family or otherwise? Just getting an idea, right? And that's the first thing, is that we always need to know who we're speaking with. Mm-hmm. We can't talk their language. We can't speak to somebody if we don't know what their background is. So getting to know people and where their background is. Oftentimes I find that people wanting to transition into apartment investing, they have this background, as I did, with single family homes. Mm-hmm. And so that education component then comes in with, and I often hear, why would I want to go this direction instead of single family? And so then we have that conversation around, well, you can only, you only want to be limited to 10 mortgages, sure, that's 1 to 4 units. You could acquire a lot of units in that way. However, do you want limitations on you? Do you want the extra, roof, the extra skirts, the extra, what would you really want? And let's talk about the tax depreciation. Let's talk about the appreciation. So we go into the basics, right? And mm-hmm. of the benefits that come with that multifamily investing. And wow, do you want to talk about cost segregation? I know you had, did you have Yona on here recently?
Yeah. I've 2-3 episodes ago. Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, so anyway, it's like, let's talk about the benefits of this and how that could serve you, especially now we're talking about, maybe we're working with an accredited investor who has some investment experience. And now we're pointing out the benefits of the cost segregation and how that's going to help, you with your taxes. Mm-hmm. And, did you want to travel back with that? You want to carry it forward? So unwrapping the benefits of it, because the education has to start with an understanding. We won't move forward unless we actually understand something. So making sure and checking for understanding along the way, that they're tracking with the whole process and that it's resonating. Because if at any point it's not resonating, you got to go back and say, okay, is this just simply something you're absolutely not interested in? Do you want to self-select out, or do we want to continue this conversation and I need to actually just kind of backtrack and make sure you understand this part? Okay, now we're moving forward. So the education component is really the most important piece. Mm-hmm.
Because a confused mind says no, right?
Every single time.
Yeah. And an informed mind in this space that understands tax advantages and cash flow and appreciation and leverage and risk mitigation and all the benefits of multifamily, that's a whole different level of understanding. And once you do grasp that and fully can get your head around it, it's a beautiful picture. It's one that all of us that are in the space have probably, I'd like to ask you about this, but I think all of us have kind of that moment that we can almost remember where we were shown the light, so to speak. Somebody held our hand through what this would look like and how it would work. And, for me, it was Corey Peterson and, some other folks. But I'm wondering, did you have a moment like that where all of a sudden it was like,
oh yeah, yeah. Okay, what's even better? Okay, so it's almost like Jerome Myers would say, like red pill, blue pill moment, from the Matrix. And I think anyone who's investing in multifamily, we've all taken the red pill, because most of us are like blinders on to single family. I mean, maybe a dabble here or there, because it's too good to pass up type thing. It's like buying a extra piece of candy or something. But but yes, and you've had two of the major influences in my life have been guests on your show. And so I was listening to Bigger Pockets, what was it, December of 2018, going to the gym at Dark 30, and I heard Monique Calm. This story, it's so cute because it's part of what I call my real estate testimony. I have my faith testimony. I have my real estate testimony. And she's the first person. I was lamenting that there weren't women on Bigger Pockets. And I was like, I love this. I don't have anything against the men. Like, this is fantastic, but it'd be kind of cool to hear a woman. Boom. Talk about, one of those laws of attraction type things, right? So next thing you know, boom, she's on and she is sharing her story, and she's sharing about syndication. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, this is what I was looking for. And that's just it, is that I was shifting. My mindset was shifting from that single family space. And I wanted to invest, but I didn't know where. And I was educating myself. And as you make that pursuit, and like your listeners are doing this, they're listening to your podcast because they want something more and they're looking for it. And you're going to find it if you continue that search. I hear Monique Calm. I hear her explain syndication. I have this huge epiphany, aha experience, and my life has never been the same since, because it was just one of those, that's what I'm doing. I changed all of my podcast listening from Bigger Pockets and just kind of, other podcasts that were informative to, okay, now I'm listening to Michael Blanc. Now I'm listening to the Big Kahuna. I love Corey. He's great. I just shifted completely, because when you know what you want, when you have that clarity, you take action. You put the blinders on, you say, great. Because if you're trying to do it all, you're going to fail. You'll flounder. And that's what I'd been doing up until that moment when I heard that. I'd wanted it, but I'd been floundering. So yes, there's my aha moment. And then Brian Briscoe, I am one of his biggest fans of Four Oaks Capital, because they did so much. Brian has helped me out. He answers, calls and texts and questions, and all the guys at Four Oaks Capital, they walked my husband and I through underwriting. They've just been a huge influence in my life. So a huge raving fans.
Yeah, Brian's awesome. He's a gem for sure. All those folks you just mentioned are gems, and Monique she's wonderful. I love what she does for women, for empowering women and bringing women into this space. I think it's so key and so important, and I'm very grateful. I just like being around women in general, but I think there's a special quality in general that kind of a balance almost. But when I've partnered with women on deals or looked at deals, that sort of thing, there can be a real nice synergy there, and I just think that everybody should have access to this in general. So I'm grateful to you and to her for picking up that torch and running with it. My good friend Emma Powell. Have you?
I love Emma.
Yeah. I just was on a Zoom call with her. She's another example of somebody that is just killing it right now, and started less than 2 years ago, and has 3 deals under management at this point, I believe, and working on a new build here in Salt Lake City, and she's got all kinds of good stuff going on. So let me ask you a couple things about 3 keys. So first of all, are there 3 keys? Like, what does that refer to?
Ooh, wow. Thank you. Nobody has ever asked that, but there is a story. So 3 keys, I am faith. I love God. And so I just think about faith in the Trinity. So there's that. And then I'm a 3rd generation residential realtor. So there's that as well, that component. So my grandpa was super successful in residential sales, didn't retire until he was 91. And he was training people at this large office in California when he was retired, like finally had to retire. But he loved it. See, so I had an example of do what you love. You know, grandma always said he'll die the moment he quits. Like he loves this. So, and then my dad was in residential sales and absolutely awesome. And I followed that path. I left education in my mid-20s. So I started teaching at the tender age of 22. Like, bam, just wham, bam, get in, you know, jump in, start the career, and finally got the courage to leave and go into residential sales and crushed it. Absolutely crushed it.
In Modesto?
In Modesto, yes.
Yeah.
I'm going to put an asterisk there. This is the long version, the long answer. The asterisk is that I didn't like who I was becoming. And I was becoming, I like being a tender, nice person, you know, and unfortunately in residential real estate, it's a very different world than multifamily. And I didn't like the type of person I was becoming, and I didn't have any role models to attach to like, especially women, to see like, how can I become the kind of awesome, successful woman I want to be? And I just didn't have the self-awareness. And I mean, I was young. So some people, I look at these young 20 somethings that are crushing it right now, and I'm like, they're amazing. I just wasn't there. So anyway, that's the 3 keys. So 3 generations, 3 pillars of faith for me. And
cool. Love
it made sense. Well, there was one more thing to that. My grandpa always said, the key is, so that's where the key came from.
I love that he worked till he was 91. That, like you said, he obviously loved what he was doing and he was very good at it. So he didn't need to work that late, I wouldn't think. But that just, my grandpa died.
He didn't.
I'm sure.
He didn't. He was training people and they valued him. It was great.
He loved it. I'm sure he loved it. Just ate it up. Yeah. Because he was good at it. He was an expert. People looked up to him. He was a contribution to other people. That's fantastic. So what is, you mentioned the deal in Northern Idaho. If you could wave a magic wand right now and poof, the perfect deal shows up for 3 keys, what does that look like?
Ooh, the perfect deal. I'm a go big or go home kind of person. I'm pretty intense and I like a good challenge. And so, while that would present a challenge, it's not the unicorn that I'm looking for. You know, it'd be a fun challenge though and serve my community well. I would love to find 300 units. I think that that's a really sweet spot and provides, you have to look at what a community needs. And so, 300 units, you can actually create a really nice culture. And if you create microcultures, then you are influencing the community in a really powerful way. Again, going back, people who are free of stress and burdens behave in a different way than people who are encumbered and stressed out and burdened by worry or fear. Like all of those things resonate. So if you can create a culture within. So 300 units. I absolutely love the Huntsville market. It's one of my favorite markets. I'd love to just buy everything up there. It's a really thriving market. And there's a little asterisk with that. And that is that they have the strong aerospace industry there. And I happen to have launched a robotics team at the elementary level that went to the world championship their first year. So because that's just how I do it, right? Go big or go home. So it was an interesting process and we did a lot of work around the aerospace. So it's a neat connection for me. Like it's a win-win.
So 300 units in Huntsville, Alabama, right?
Yep. Alabama.
Okay. Class B.
I am a C+, and then I want to turn it into a solid B. Okay. Well, something now these are the things that make sense, but if you can provide, I'm going to tell you this, there's this place in Huntsville that's on the market and it fits this profile, except it has like 67% occupancy, but it's in the path of progress. It's just some of the people I would partner with have said, no, we're not going that route. But I just think about the impact that you could have on the community by resurrecting that and breathing life into it. It's a heavy lift. And so while I think that the ideals, like the ideal investment that you asked for, yep, that's it. My heart investment is different than my ideal investment. Because, you know, investing has to follow numbers and the numbers need to make sense. There's a responsibility to investors. And I take that very to heart. That is my number one concern. And I can serve a community well, no matter what, if I'm providing quality housing. But wow, what if I could go in and restore something? Or what if I could do a motel conversion and create more housing in a community where they're having a housing shortage? That's serving and impacting a community. I personally like, so again, the difference, there's the ideal investment, and then there's the philanthropic impact investment that, that I always look for, but doesn't always pencil out.
So what do things look like in, let's say, 5 years for Three Keys and Julie?
Yeah, it's exciting. So I have a new vision, which is really exciting. I thought that, you know, as you continue on a path, you need to be open to how it might evolve and change before your very eyes. And I can see now that I'll put this humbly, I have a way of bringing people together. And I'm noticing that I'm able to pull teams together, and I'm wide-eyed about how can I help raise other people up? I don't want to create an educational platform. I don't want to be the next Corey Peterson or Rod Cleve or Michael Blanc. I don't want to do that. However, if you can create some teams that you can raise up, there are so many people that are hungry, that have hustle, that have a wherewithal, that are super smart, great people that want to be successful, and they're trying to find their place. And if I can connect those people up, you know, that would be really cool, right? How many teams could I have across the country in 5 years? I'll raise money. I'll raise capital. I'll make sure your deals are funded. Because if you can alleviate somebody's pain point, that fear of, can I raise the capital? Right? So most people don't pursue their deal because they're afraid of fill in the blank. Either I'm afraid I won't find the right property, or I'm afraid I don't have the money if I get the deal. And so if you can take one of those points away and say, hey, don't worry about the money. You go chase after the deal. And you work with these people, they complement you really well. Like, run with it. So in 5 years, that might be where I'm at. I might be kind of like orchestrating, have a pile of capital and investors that are loving life and getting great returns, and a lot of people that are coming up on the active side and able to grow in that capacity. You're the first person outside of my husband, you're the first person I've shared that vision with. I just lost your audio.
Oh, there we go.
There we go.
Sorry. That's super exciting. Do you have any, and as far as being around your goals for a minute, any tangible metrics for like a 3 year, 1 year? I don't mean to put you on the spot here, but some people
do. You're fine.
Some people don't.
I do. Yeah. That's funny. This is the first year I've ever gone hardcore into goal setting. My mentor and friend took me through this process last late November, early December. It was really powerful. Nice. And so when I look at what those metrics are, for me, it's cash flow. It's all about cash flow, right? Because that's where that's where the freedom comes. When I don't have to worry about, the hustle and the cash is coming in off the investments enough. So that versus doors. So some people will gauge by cash flow. Some people gauge by doors. If I have, and my number is so much lower, I'm actually really low maintenance. As long as I have the mountains and a mountain bike, I'm happy. In my family, I'm happy, right? So if I can have, 20,000 passive on the cash flow side, I will be one little happy camper.
Yeah. And that's a very legit goal. It's actually it's my 3 year, but I'm looking at tightening that up. That timeline but $20,000 a month. I mean, it's pays for a nice lifestyle, especially out here in the West, in an affordable market, and provides for, philanthropy, savings, investing back, all that stuff. Well, that's super exciting. So no educational platform. Do you ever see yourself coaching?
I do see myself coaching. So in my ideal world, a lot of people say, everyone has their purpose for investing. I actually really want to, this is funny. It's like you're getting like the whole, I'm telling it all here. But I really want to go around and speak and encourage people. I just have this part of my heart is it hurts because I see people with so much potential inside of them and they're trapped. And my heart would love to just go help people who want, you can only help the ones who want this. But if you want to be unstuck, I want to see you unstuck. Like if everyone was unstuck, the power that they could produce in the world, this would be a different world.
Yeah.
So if I could travel around in a have an RV, have a Jeep, travel around the country with my kids and my family and speak along the way and check on assets along the way, be ideal.
There you go.
I'm a simple girl.
Yeah, that's a beautiful vision, though. It really is. And simplicity is a great thing in and of itself. Essentialism is a concept that's kind of in the buzzword, in the vernacular right now. And I think there's a lot to that. So a couple last questions just to kind of round things out. Unfortunately, we're running out of time, which is a bummer because I'd love to hang some more with you. But you hear this question a lot, but I think it's really an important question because it gets at the heart of what we're all about. So what's success to you, Julie?
Did you not listen to anything I said along the way, Tate? No kidding.
No, I got it all. I just want to hear. I want to hear it again. I got to hear it again.
I'm just teasing you. Success to me is having that congruency in my life. It's using the resources that I've been blessed and entrusted with fully. So not allowing myself to be trapped in fear or excuses. Because if everybody does this, right? If we all just play to our strengths and do what we know, and we know what we're supposed to be doing, it's inside of us. We sometimes bury it and try to excuse it, but we know what we need to be doing. So I just want to have that, like, to me, success is at the end of the day, if I know I used my time, my energy, my talent, my money. Most people forget talent is a resource. Like, we all have different talents. And so if I can use those well each day, I've won. I'm successful.
Beautiful.
So I'll add, because my dad literally, like, favorite person dropped dead 5 years ago. And that really changed that was probably the beginning of the catalyst, really. It was like, you don't know when your time is up. So win the day, go to bed knowing that today I won. So success is every day. And if you win every single day, you're going to win your life.
Yeah. You've only got right now to thrive in, right? And to succeed in. There's only ever the present moment to bring your best. So I love that. And I love that your father's life and his presence was that inspiring to you to help you kind of reevaluate and reassess and refocus into the next chapter, so to speak. Yeah, it's exciting. You mentioned Monique. Any other really important teachers, mentors, authors along the way for you?
Did we have another 10 minutes? Sure. Right? No. I love Rod Cleef. I have learned a tremendous amount through Rod Cleef, and I was part of his Warrior program. And that really, I looked around at different programs. I could probably have easily gone into Corey's program, but I discovered Corey's program a little bit after Rod's. But the concept is your mindset. And so I really liked how it was the business side was married with the mindset side. And there was that balance and harmony between the two. That's what I was missing in my 20s when I went into residential real estate. It was like, oh, you have solved the problem. But within that, I had the most amazing mentor that I worked with, Steve Breton of Velocity Cap. And he's probably single-handedly been the most pivotal person on the journey, just with what he's taught me. And I could not bring a deal. And I still, it's almost like, you want dad's approval in a sense, right? It's like, what, I'll always want his second eyes on every deal. I have no doubt. But that's also a friendship, knowing and trusting somebody tremendously. And when somebody's going to call you out, some people don't call out people who come off confident like myself. And so I love it. He'll call me out, say, right. No, prove this. What about that?
Yeah, we all need that. That's awesome. That's so key. Well, Julie, how can people reach you?
Reach out to me over on go to my website, 3keysinvestments.com. It's all spelled out. So I know everybody can spell 3, the letter keys, and investments. We've got that. And then I have a podcast, Ask Me How I Know. And if you just type in Ask Me How I Know Multifamily, you'll get the podcast. And I love that the podcast does everything that you've heard me say this entire time. It marries mindset with real estate. So every Monday I have a mindset episode. So even if you're not sold out on investing, or if you're a listener of this podcast and you want to get your partner involved in multifamily, just drop them a mindset episode. And then the next episode, every other episode, it'll be like a mindset episode, then a real estate episode. And maybe you'll win them over. I'm also over on LinkedIn, which is my happy spot.
Yeah, that's where you and I met, was through LinkedIn meetup groups that are generated through and supported by LinkedIn. And LinkedIn is happening right now, listeners. Like, it's really key to be on LinkedIn and be working it and really take an audit of your presence on LinkedIn and how much you're posting, how much you're you're checking in and networking with people, how many personal notes you're sending every week or every day. There is a fortune on LinkedIn, just an absolute fortune to be made solely through LinkedIn. And there's programs of how to raise capital on LinkedIn and whatnot that we can't get into today. But big takeaway there. Listeners, get on LinkedIn if you're not, and find me, find Julie, and then find all the people that we follow and look up to and comment on, and people, the meetup groups we go to and everything else. There you go. That's like insider information right there.
Oh, I cannot. So I've only been on LinkedIn for, I think, 6 months. It's a game changer. So if you're listening, you need to be on LinkedIn. If you want to grow professionally, you need to be on LinkedIn. Forget Facebook. That's fun. That's more for family and relationships. You want to grow professionally and meet exceptional top tier people, you need to be on LinkedIn. And I'll give a plug. Yona does his challenge. So if you don't understand LinkedIn or you're trying to develop your skill set, Yona Weiss does a 10-day challenge that is really fun.
Yeah, Yona Weiss, Weiss. He's a guest on the podcast, I think episode 22 or so. And he's a fantastic LinkedIn presence. And if you want to learn how to do it right, like Tony Robbins says, success leaves clues. So you just go look at the people that are on LinkedIn that are killing it and watch what they're doing, watch what they post, and watch the kind of responses they get. And there's a lot to be learned there. So I think
we could have a whole conversation on this. I'm like, whoa.
Yeah. It's as basic as email was, 15, 20 years ago, in my opinion, if you're an entrepreneur,
Yes.
So,
I don't know how I lived without it.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, Julie, darn it, we got to go. This has been awesome. Really appreciate you. You're a delightful person to hang out with and to learn from and to collaborate with. Hopefully we can maybe do some business in the future. And if nothing else, we'll let's stay in touch. And I'd love to help you any way that I can moving forward. Just let me know. I'm here to serve. So
awesome. We'll do some business and we'll mountain bike.
There you go. Oh man, that sounds, right on the money.
There's a unicorn. Right. That's a unicorn deal right there.
Unicorn deal right there. All right. So listeners, if you're mountain bikers and you want to join Julie and or myself on a mountain bike venture, make sure to say so in the rating and review that you leave on this episode. And
Definitely.
We'll reach out to you. So, all right, everybody. Well, thank you so much, Julie. Thank you, listeners, for hanging out and listening to the end of another Apartment Guys episode. And we'll see you next week.
Thanks so much, Tate.
Thank you, Julie.
Thanks for listening to The Apartment Guys with Tate Seamer. Tate and friends are grateful to have you as a loyal listener. If you like what you've heard, please subscribe, rate, review, and share with friends on your Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, or any other podcast platform. Also, check out Tate's YouTube channel for videos of many of these episodes and more. Until next time, take massive action steps and rock on.